Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast. Steve, Ramona.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I am so thrilled to have you join us today. This podcast is dedicated to exploring the idea of doing business and living life with a purpose. We believe when we approach our work and our lives with a servant's heart, we can truly make a difference. And I hope all of you out there are thinking about that, because when you make a difference in your life, you're making a difference in somebody else's life. We also created this show to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you to make an impact in your world. And the key word there is your. Now, my show today is going to be about trauma and grief and an incredible story we're going to learn about. And she's just wonderful. But what I love about her most is her passion for what she's doing. Mm-hmm. Take that when you listen to this show, and whatever you're passionate about, hopefully it's what you're doing for work, it's going to help you grow your business. But while you're listening to her today, I want you to think about how you're going to serve today and what impact you'll create today. And the key word I always circle is today. I have people reach out to me going, you said today, and I waited a month and I still haven't done it. So when you listen to the recording and you get done, think about, write down who you're going to serve today and what impact you're going to create. It could be just calling your best friend. It could be just turning your wife, say you love her, or your husband. Again, service doesn't have to be big. It can be, and when you can do it, but just serve everybody you meet. Okay, I'm off my high horse. I want to thank my sponsor today, incredible partner, Pantheon Alliance. Imagine being part of an exclusive community of high-income, successful business owners and entrepreneurs from very diverse industries. Together, they're building a thought leader platform, an expertise platform to impact and change the world. If you'd like to be part of this community, please reach out. I'm going to get you all the information. As I said, impact and change. There's grief and trauma everywhere. COVID showed us the way, probably not in a good way. But the best thing is, people like my guest are helping you get past that, moving forward, and having a great life. I want to welcome to the show, Suzanne. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so pleased to be here.
I don't like starting with somebody's backstory, but I think this leads to what you're doing. And it's not a great story, but it's got you where you are today. Talk about your son, what happened, and how it affected you.
Yeah, I think we all have a backstory, and I actually love to start there, because really this mission that I have, this passion I hold for what I do, my determination to change this situation for all of us really comes from my own lived experience. And grief and loss is something we are scared to talk about. Really, when I ask people in workshops why we don't show up the way we want to, it's because we're so scared. And me telling my story and telling what happened next and what happened after that makes us feel more hopeful. It makes us see possibility. It makes us understand, even if we get one nugget out of this conversation that makes us understand grief better, that shifts the dynamic. And that is what allows us the spaciousness to change the way that we respond. So I love starting there, because my mission is all about my son, Ben. He died in September of 2020. He was 22. And that loss was as catastrophic, as life-rupturing, as disorienting, as horrifying as if you're able to allow yourself to imagine. If you're a parent, it's exactly as awful as you imagine it to be, if not worse. It's, there's no question that out of order death, the death of a child, there's just something different that happens then. And I say that as someone who, as we're recording this in, I don't even know what it is, September 24, last year my dad had died. It was the 25th anniversary of my dad's death and the 10th anniversary of my mom's. So I had lost both of my parents before Ben died. This was not a new experience for me to have a close loved one die, someone who was really important in my life. And there was something about it that for me was next level that I was not prepared for. So what that meant was I was terrified. I thought there was something wrong with me. I had no clue what to do next or how to do it or where to even start. And I realized very quickly I had to become a student of grief, my own, other people's, how it might work for anybody, to just figure out what on earth was happening to me. Because I knew, when I layered the losses, Ben had died, so my son is gone. I knew the person I was that went to bed the night before that middle of the night phone call from the police to tell me he had died. I knew that person no longer existed. So I've lost him. I've lost myself. And somehow I now have instant onset, some kind of brain disease because my brain doesn't work anymore. Now I know, and I will share with your audience who might also be terrified of what's going on with their brain, that's actually very normal. It's physiological. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on in your brain. It's literally reprogramming itself, which when we can step away from the survival mode of those early acute days makes perfect sense, right? If you think about it, that track in my brain that meant I would come home and share something with Ben, or I would poke my head into his room and see what he was up to, or I would hear him wake up in the morning. That track that was connected to him now has to be relayed because that message in my brain that goes, oh, I'm going to tell Ben that, bumps up against the track in my brain that knows that's not possible. So your brain is just a bunch of mashed potatoes is the best way mine felt like anyway. It's really very disrupted. And I knew that to survive, I had to be conscious and curious. And that really became my mantra. It now becomes my driving force. It's the lens through which I develop all my programming, right? Conscious of the emotions, the feelings. That's both for the griever and the supporter or their supervisor or the business owner, right? How are we feeling when we're confronted either by our own grief or by someone else's? And curious about what we do next. What's possible? What allows us to just get through the day? In the early days, my curiosity and this is not alliance, anyone who's in those acute early days, my curiosity really was about when I'm sobbing so hard that I can't breathe, how do I slow my system down enough to be able to breathe? That's where the curiosity started because I would be sobbing, you're doing that ugly cry, you're curled up in a ball, everything is constricted, and all you can do is gasp. And I would think my brain would say, this is not enough oxygen. We cannot do this, right? So that's where the curiosity started. Really, how do I breathe? How do I just slow my system enough that I can breathe? And luckily, I remembered this book that I had read, these women I'd heard on an amazing podcast that had this method for when you're crying, how to do it. And I thought, okay, I remember I could do that. And it worked great. So it was like, okay, curiosity, 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 curiosity. How, who, when, how. One hard thing a day was our rule. That's it. One hard thing. And then just breathe. Because some days that's all you can do.
Yeah. Hope is a big word you mentioned earlier with grief. And it's interesting. You hear stories I hear. It's like people lose the loved one like you did, and they'll walk into a room thinking they're there. And that's kind of what you're saying is the brain's trying to figure everything out. One of the things about grief that people don't know is the common misconceptions. What are those and how can people navigate those?
I think the one that's the most harmful is around the timeline. And that all it comes from our fear, right? We expect, in a business situation, the average leave is 3 to 5 days, and then you're supposed to come back like nothing happened. That's impossible. We want people to get to the funeral, celebration of life, whatever the memorialization event is, and then for it to be over. That's also impossible, right? So the way the timeline actually works is that acute phase where you're really not functioning very well at all is the first weeks to about the first 6 months, 6 to 9 months, depending, really highly dysfunctional, able to put a front on some of the time, maybe function at work, okay, and then go home and fall apart, right? That's the first weeks to those first months. Then early grief is those first 2 years. So that's really that time when your brain is just still trying to make sense of it. And, for those of us who understand like the first year is going to be really hard, somehow the myth that we're told is that after the first year, it's all supposed to get better. And the reality is, for many, many people, myself included, the second year was actually worse. I think there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. One of them is that story we're told about all the firsts being difficult, which was absolutely true, almost impossible. The seconds weren't much better. And I think that's partly because what's happening in your brain makes that reality more sure. And so then you're faced really with, like, there's no more magical thinking, right? There's no more pretending. There's no more, part of what your brain is doing in those early days really is protecting you from the trauma of the truth and softening it, dulling everything a little bit. As that dullness fades, which that brain fog, 5 years, right? As that dullness starts to fade that second year, it can be really, really difficult. And then after that early grief, which is those first 2 years, we're looking at transitioning into mature grief, because really the aim of healthy grief is integration, right? We're not trying to leave anyone behind. We're not trying to forget about them. We want to build a life that honors our loved one, that carries them with us, however that makes sense for us, because everyone is different. And where when we think of them, it's with more love than pain. That's that concept of integration. So, there's all kinds of great, memes and pictures that describe grief. It's that messy plate of spaghetti. I'm 100% support that one. And I love the model that has it so that grief is kind of this ball in the picture and that your life just gets bigger around it. That's that integration piece, right? And that takes years to sort out.
Yeah. I love you keep smiling. You keep not laughing, but having this positive attitude. His audience, I'm bringing this up because she went to a horrific event and she's come close to the other side. There's always going to be issues, but thank you for showing us that. First of all, that's a servant's heart, being open and transparent and sharing the story. I want to dive into business because this is doing business with servant's heart. It should be doing business in life, but I think they're intertwined. When you say business,
absolutely.
It's life. So on both sides of it, let's start with the side of the person that's grieving. How do they handle their work life? Whether they're a founder of a company or an 8 to 5 or at Apple, how do they handle that?
So for most people, as I said, the leave is about 3 to 5 days. And then most companies expect you to come back like nothing has happened. And grievers are really suffering in those circumstances, which is to be expected, right? This grief at the beginning is big and it's messy and it's awful. And just navigating each day is really difficult. And at the same time, for most grievers, they want to be at work, right? Most of them financially need to be there. Most of us can't afford to take an extended unpaid leave, which is sometimes what's offered if you're lucky. Most of us can't afford that. And most people want that sense, certainly if you could have a leave longer than 3 to 5 days, 20 is the current recommendation. So 20-day leave. Even after that, there needs to be some acknowledgement that this person is not coming back as the person they were before, right? They're going to need some accommodation. They're going to need support. They're going to need open communication. There's so many things we can do from the employer side that's cost neutral, massively beneficial. From the griever side, really, what they need is that open support. They need a person, right? If you're not prepared to look at this from a systemic level, which ideally is where you're going to look at it from, you need a person that is grief informed, understands how it works, able to have awkward, difficult conversations, because this is a new skill we're building, right? And I think we have to start from the place where this is a no shame, no blame conversation. As a collective, we're crap at grief. We don't talk about it. We don't learn from each other. We don't share our experience. We're not good at it because we're terrified. And to me, the way we break down fear is with information, which is why my mission is all about education. Because when you understand it better, when even if you now just understand the timeline and you think, oh my gosh, I am expected to go back to work after 5 days. I barely know which way is up. Who in my organization as a griever can I talk to? Who could I go to and say, I don't even know how this is going to work, but I really want to be here because this is my social circle. This gives me a space where I can hold it together, where I can interact with that normal world that feels like it's carrying on without me, right? So the workplace actually has a really robust, magical role to play if we do it right. And unfortunately, the last figure I heard is it's now to the tune of $248 billion annually in the US is the cost to businesses of hidden grief. That's billion with a B. And we're not talking about it. It's mind-blowing to me that this massively expensive problem is still hidden and quiet because we can fix it. And we can make a huge difference for people. We stop the turnover, we stop the absenteeism, we stop the presenteeism, right? We stop the withdrawal. And it all starts with that servant's heart, really, which is why I just am so thrilled to be on a podcast where that's the focus.
Yeah.
Because if we look at it with a servant's heart, we can see, obviously, our expectation that someone would come back after 5 days like nothing has happened is wrongheaded. We've just been misinformed.
Yeah.
So what can we do instead? Well, you can have an open conversation. Ideally, you would have a policy. So when that person comes back, the person they directly report to has a scaffold to hold on to have that first initial, awkward conversation. And the griever knows there's something for them to ask for. Because the onus we're putting on people in the most difficult times of their life is unfair. It's time for leaders and businesses to step up and say, if we're going to care for our employees, we need to care for this part of the human experience. It's one of the only guarantees. People are going to experience grief. It's a guarantee.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're not doing anything about it. And what's really interesting to me is when I can help leaders see that if they can open up the conversation about loss to losses that happen in the business, because you're a business person, I'm a business person, everyone listening is a business person. We have all had losses. They might not be of people. They might be of a product launch that didn't go the way we wanted. They might be of you and I were talking about offering free workshops and how much we love doing them. And sometimes we're doing them to ourselves, right? That's a loss when you've planned for the day, your PowerPoint's all ready, right? You're ready to go. Nobody shows up. There's big losses, little losses. Every time you restructure in an average organization, that's every 3 to 5 years. You're creating grief for your employees, the ones that leave and the ones that stay behind. If we can start to talk about that and acknowledge those losses in the workplace and have a healthy conversation where we acknowledge that emotion comes from that shifts the whole workplace culture. So then when a catastrophic loss of a close loved one happens, we've all practiced. We have some skills. We have some shared language. We have a different shared agreement. That means it's okay to come and say, man, I'm struggling today. I'm going to need some help.
Yeah.
We can set that all up ahead of time.
Yeah. You've got a lot of great points there. And I like to flip it because I think the biggest problem in business, this is my thoughts, is the griever they've got guide, maybe it's you or somebody guiding them. But the other side of it, the people that are listening to the griever, what do I say? What's the right thing to say? Do I try to help them? You overhelp. Let's educate the audience, because audience, think about this right now as we're talking at 11:27 p.m. Pacific time. So to whatever Eastern, all the different time zones very well. Right now, somebody's dealing with somebody's grief. Right now. I know it's a holiday, but there's Starbucks open, grocery stores, and somebody I just come in and say, I lost my mom today. What is a great education for somebody when they hear that, or they see somebody coming in and heard, oh my God, the scuffle, or not the scuffle, but the drama of, oh my God, he just lost his dad. What do we say? How do we say it? Happens all the time. I hear people say it. How would you educate people on that?
Yeah, it's the most common question that I get. What can I say? What can I do? Like, people will phone and say, oh my gosh, my so-and-so just lost somebody or other. I don't even know where to start. So we're back to conscious and curious, right? Conscious of how that makes you feel, because you need to be self-regulated before you say anything. So if you're terrified, take a deep breath and slow yourself down, because it's our fear of doing harm that makes us withdraw and makes us blurt something awkward, usually one of those old cliches and platitudes, which we should just never say again. What's interesting to me is we have the what can I say and the what can I do backwards. We usually say something really closed and offer something really open. So we'll say something like, oh, I'm so sorry, and then any number of terrible cliches or platitudes, right? It shuts down the conversation. We watch the person. Now that we're aware, we watch the person going, and we know we've shut it down. And what we offer is, oh my gosh, I'm here for you anytime, anything I can do, just let me know. And that doesn't work because that grief brain, it can't conceptualize that. It can't do that. So we need to flip those around. And what we want to say is from our servant's heart. I think it's okay to start with, I'm so sorry, but that's not the end of what you say. I'm so sorry. I can only imagine what you're going through, and it must be absolutely horrific and terrifying. And I am here for you no matter what happens. We're going to figure it out. Step by step, we'll figure it out. Or something, whatever you would say to whoever that person is, because it's going to be something different to everybody. You're not necessarily going to say that to the 8 to 5 or 8 to 3 or at Apple, right? Your frontline worker. You might say that to someone you're really close to. To your frontline worker, you might say, as a supervisor, you might say, I was listening to this amazing podcast, and I know this is really going to impact your ability to work for the next few months. And I want you to know that you're a really valuable part of our team, and we're here to accommodate whatever you need as best we can. Can you hear how that opens the conversation? It doesn't shut it down.
Yeah.
Right. And what people say to me so often is like, I'm so sorry. And that's all they say. And then I say, yeah, I am too. And then we talk about the weather. And I'm like, that was not it.
So the theme of all this, which I'm loving, I want the audience to get, is support. When you talk to somebody, whatever those words are, it's the theme of support. I'm here to support
because that
you.
to me is compassion, right? Compassion is empathy in action.
Yep.
I can imagine how you feel, and I want to help carry this burden.
Yeah, don't tell them a story. Yeah, when my dad died,
No.
nobody wants to.
Don't center yourself. Don't center yourself. It has to be all about them, right? The flip side of that is the what can I do needs to be super specific, right? Grief groceries is the thing because the grocery store is really tricky. So what you could offer is, I'm going to the grocery store today. Go open your fridge, look inside, tell me what's missing. Is it milk? Is it bread? Is it cheese? What do you need? And I'll bring it this afternoon. Very specific, right? To an employee, you might say, wow, your job today is frontline with the public. Is that doable for you or not? Right? Frontline workers, we have to take care of our frontline workers. We have to take care of our folks who have who are at risk, like our safety conscious. Thank you. I'm like, there's a term for that. That's the grief brain, right? I have another year, they tell me. Right, the safety conscious positions. We have to take care of those people. So if there's accommodations we can offer, we should. And if there isn't, we better have a darn good reason why not.
Support and specificity can never be
Specificity.
specific and support. You do those two things. Yeah, I like that. That's instead of saying, hey, I'm going to make 10 lasagnas. You have food for 6 weeks. They may hate lasagna or not.
Exactly.
Like it. Yeah.
Let's start with, do you have 2 recipes that you love that are freezable? Can you send them to me? And I'll bring them to you tomorrow.
Yeah. We're coming to the end here, but so if somebody says, no, I'm good, let it be, right? Don't push that. Okay, good. I want to get that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to stay griever centered, right? It's the same as we do with trauma, all grief, all the things. It has to be centered around the person. And that no isn't forever.
Good point.
So offer again, right? Now that you know they're in that early phase for 2 years, you have lots of opportunities to offer to help. Different things, different times. Anything you need, your griever needs too. Groceries, laundry, childcare, garbage cans out, reminders of meetings, breakdowns of tasks due, project breakdowns, everything you need, they need.
You're a rock star. Absolute rock star.
Thank you.
And I hate this, I hate to say you had to go through something very tragic, but that's what a servant's heart does. Once you got past it, you're like, hey, I want to help others. I've been through it. Let me show you the way of different ways I help in others. That's why you're a servant's heart. Real quick, I want to talk about these cafes. So how can people get access to them? What are you trying to do?
So the grief cafes, I just started a few months ago, and they've turned into this magical space, which I love them so much. So they're through Meetup, which is an app. So you go onto Meetup, find me, Suzanne Jabor, find grief cafes, look for mine, because there's a couple different grief services on there. They're a free drop-in. So you just join the group and you drop in if you're able. And it's funny, we had the last one I had, I said to the group, I just want you to know, I want you to sign up. Like, I want you to RSVP when you feel like you're able to. And I understand how grief works. So if what seemed like a really good idea on Tuesday, by Wednesday night when we have them is a terrible idea, it's okay. I will watch and make sure there's always space for people to RSVP. I'll just change the size of the group as we go, because I want people to be able to sign up when they feel able and then come if they can. So they're the first and third Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, because that's where I am. And that makes it kind of accessible for North America. It's after work, after dinner. Most people aren't in bed yet. I know, I'm sorry, Europe, it doesn't work for you, but we'll get there. And it's an hour long, and people just come to have a conversation about grief. So I give a little introduction of myself so people have a sense of who I am and why I'm here. I tell a little bit of my grief story. And we literally open the floor and people share. It's a space you can say their name, because people forget that we want to talk about our loved ones, right? We want to talk about them. We want you to say their name. We want you to share with us when you remember them. I love it when people say, oh my gosh, I thought of Ben the other day because of X, Y, or Z. I love that, but people are uncomfortable. We don't know that that's a gift yet. So now you've heard it. Now you know you have to go do it, right?
Yeah.
So it's a place for people to say their name, to share a little bit of their grief story. And then people offer suggestions. People are helping each other out just in the most beautiful, giving way. And what I say at the beginning of the gathering is that any grief is welcome, no matter what it's a grief for, right? It's the loss of a loved one, it's a pet, it's a job, it's a business opportunity, it's a house, it's whatever it is. Grief is grief. It doesn't matter. This hierarchy we have, I can tell you, as someone who landed at the top of that hierarchy with the death of a child, it doesn't serve any of us. I didn't win anything. So we have to break that down and just allow grief to be grief, no matter how long ago it happened. Because maybe something's happening right now that's activating it for you. Maybe you didn't get to do it at the time and you're doing it later. It's all good. And so people come and they share their story. They talk about their person or their experience. And, the last gathering, we had one woman who'd lost her job that was really important to her. And people were able to be compassionate with her in exactly the same way they were compassionate with the woman who had had 5 significant losses in the last 2 months. So
Yeah.
it's just become a really magical place. And that's a free offering for me. That's part of my mission, is to just create conversation, create community, create space. Yeah. And then I have all
All right.
kinds of other things that I offer, but that's a great place to come in and
Yeah.
just be seen and heard and understood by everyone else in the room is there because they're grieving something.
It's a serious topic. I'm glad we talked about it, but let's have a little fun. Let's end the show with a great little question I have. So you've got a reservation at a restaurant for 4. You're sitting in one of the chairs. Who, dead or alive, will be sitting in those 3 chairs? Why are they sitting there? And what food would you order for the table?
Oh my gosh. Okay. 3 other people. Oh, I mean, this is such a hard question for me because I'm here to talk about grief. So I would have been there, of course. I mean, I could fill the table with Ben and my mom and my dad, but I'm not going to do that. So I would have been there, of course. We have to have pasta and chocolate because that's my 2 favorite things. And I
Wow.
would want, someone who's always fascinated me is Jim Henson. I want to talk to Jim Henson because I want to understand him better. I want to understand how that amazing, creative, astonishing mind worked. So I would have Jim Henson there. And what's coming to me today is Maya Angelou. She was
Beautiful.
such an inspiration to me in so many ways. And I so often think, and I say actually on podcasts all the time, like when we know better, we do better. We can do better. And so know better. Like it's part of our job is to know better so we can do better. So I think that would be a fascinating conversation. That's what I'd have today.
That'd be a heck of a table. And pasta and chocolate. A lot of women in the audience are going, yes, pasta and chocolate. So thank you. This is absolutely an incredible show. Grief is a hard subject. You handle it with such ease and humbleness, and just you're a servant's heart, bottom line. And you're going to keep doing what you're doing. I support you. How can people support you, reach out to you, and contact you?
The best place is through my website, which is suzannejabbour.com. So that's super easy. I'm on LinkedIn, Suzanne Jabbour Grief Education on all the socials. But if you go to the website, that's the easiest place. Find the Meetup group if you're grieving. Come join us, have a conversation, have a safe space to be heard. And yeah, find me on LinkedIn. That's a great spot.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Hey, audience, do me a favor, comment on the YouTube channel because it will come out in the next couple of days. Put your comments in there. If they're for Suzanne, I'll get them to her. Reach out to her. Ask questions. Grief's everywhere. COVID's showed us that. The interest rates, income, money issues, the
environment.
The environment. There's so many things happening. To have a safe place to go like Suzanne would be great. Subscribe to this YouTube channel because you're going to get more great guests like Suzanne. But here's the thing people don't realize when you subscribe. You can go back to Suzanne's podcast and listen and learn more. She educated you like crazy on this show. And you might have forgotten something, didn't write it down. Go back. That's the power of a podcast. And as always, me and Suzanne want to thank you so much for watching and listening to our podcast. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Doing Business, in this case, Life with a Servant's Heart. See y'all.